Okay, so now we're going to take a look at our third learning target about how to select a simple random sample with technology, or table of random digits, and that's going to come into play with how to sample well. So we saw previously that using a convenience sample or a voluntary sample is not a good way to have samples for the survey or whatever it is that you are trying to gather information about. So we need to figure out, well, how can we do this well? Well, a sample that chosen by chance is going to rule out favoritism by the sampler and self-selection by respondents. So we want a sample by chance to rule out bias. Random sampling, the use of chance to select a sample, is central to the principle of statistical sampling. So we want to use random sampling. So one of the ways we can do that is using a simple random sample. Simple random sample, we will call it SRS. It's very important that you note that when you see SRS, that stands for a simple random sample, and it is so important that you know this definition, as with all the other definitions in here. But a simple random sample of size n consists of n individuals from the population chosen in such a way that every set of n individuals has the equal chance to be the sample actually selected. And I'm even going to underline that. So if it's a simple random sample of size n, it means it has n individuals from the population, but what makes it a simple random sample is that it's chosen in such a way that every set of n individuals has an equal chance to be the sample actually selected. Okay, so that's going to be important to note. I'm double underlining that because later on there's going to be questions talking about simple random sample, and that's the whole idea of a simple random sample. So how can we do this that every person of our sample of n individuals has an equal chance of being part of that sample? One of the ways we can do that, the most rudimentary way we can do this, is to take all the names, if we're selecting from students, put all the students' names on slips of paper and put them in a hat, and then we could draw out 10 slips. Every sample of size 10 has an equal likelihood of being chosen. Okay, so that's one of the most basic, rudimentary ways that we can use select a simple random sample. It's called the hat method. A simple random sample not only gives each individual an equal chance of being chosen, but also gives every possible sample an equal chance of being chosen. Another key part. So it not only gives each individual an equal chance of being chosen, but it gives every possible sample an equal chance of being chosen. Oftentimes, instead of doing the hat method, we are going to use a table of random digits, or we're going to use a number generator to choose our simple random sample. So we are going to use technology, and we're going to use our calculators in order to do that. And I will put the steps in here so that you will know how to do this. But in order to use the technology, we have to label. That'll be the very first step. You're going to give each member of the population a distinct numerical label from 1 to n. So step 1 is you are going to have to label, and we'll see that in just a minute, how we're going to label the members of our population from 1 to n. After we label them, we're either going to use our calculator or we're going to use our table of random digits to randomize. So we will use a random number generator to obtain n different integers from 1 to n. Okay, so when they're asking you to explain how you're going to choose your random sample, you need to use these steps. When asked to explain I should say asked to explain how. And I do not have my whiteout right on me, so I know this is going to look messy. When asked to explain how is what I should have said. And I will get my whiteout and fix that. Okay, so here are the steps for using your calculators to generate a random sample. If you're using the TI-84, you're going to hit the math key. Then select probability, which is PRB, and number 5, which is the random integer. And you're going to choose your interval from what integers you want to choose. If you are using the Inspire, from the calc page, press menu. Number 5, probability. Probability, let's spell that right. Then number 4, random. Then number 2, integer. Okay, so let's take a look at an example of how to choose a simple random sample using a random integer table, or in this case, table D from the back of your book. So again, these first 2 steps that I have highlighted are the steps to explain. Anytime you are asked to explain how you chose your simple random sample, you have to use these 2 steps. If you do not, and anytime you are asked in homework, test, quiz, AP test, you will not receive full credit or possibly any credit for that problem if you do not go through and explain these 2 steps. So you must explain the labeling, how you gave each member of the population a numerical label of the same length, and then you have to explain how you chose the digits from the table, how you read that, okay? So again, if you take a look below, it just gives you some steps here. We're going to see that the sample contains the individuals whose labels you find. You're always going to use the shortest labels that will cover your population. So if your population only has 5 items, you're able to use single digits. You could use 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? If your population has 30 items, you're not going to be able to use single digits because obviously you have 30 items. So to label something with the number 30 or 29 is 2 digits. So when you're labeling, you would have to use 2-digit numbers. When you are going through your table, you're going to explain that you're going to ignore any groups of digits that was not used as a label or that duplicates a label already in the sample. And when we use our table, you can read the digits in any order, but it is going to be recommended to read the rows from left to right, and that's how we're going to do that in this class. Okay, so here's the example. The management company of a local mall plans to survey a random sample of 3 stores to determine the hours they would like to stay open during the holiday season. Explain how you would use technology to choose a simple random sample of size 3. Okay, so first we're going to use technology. So in order to explain how we're going to use technology, we're going to do step 1, and step 1 is our labeling. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a number 1 here, and we're going to talk about our labeling. So label. If we take a look, we would count and see that we would have 21 stores. So your first number, the 21 stores, from 01 to 21, and we're going to tell us that we're going to do it in alpha order. Okay, notice that our label is going to be 2 digits from 01 to 21, and we're going to go in alpha order in this case, so this way we all will be on the same page while we're working instead of going across. So 01, 02, so go ahead and label the stores. So the bottom of the first column should get you to 11. Okay, so we did our labeling. We stated that we were going to label the 21 stores from 01 to 21 in alpha order. Now, step 2 is where we're going to randomize. Now, we are not using we're not using table D. In this case, they want us to use technology. So now, in order to do our randomization, we're going to use our random integer function on our calculator from 1 to 21. Now we don't have to put 01 to 21 when typing it into the calculator, you just put 1 to 21. So now we use the random integer feature on our calculator. To generate 3 numbers. So you must explain that that's what you're going to type into your calculator. You're going to use the random integer feature from 1 to 21, and we're going to generate 3 numbers. And now this is the important that we're going to talk about. If there's what we're going to do, if we see repeats, we're going to have to ignore them. You have to state this. If you don't, you will be marked down. You're going to ignore any repeated values. So you'll go through, you'll generate 3 unique digits, ignoring anything that's repeated. So this way you have 3 unique digits. Then after you generate those 3 unique digits, you're going to match the 3 numbers to the corresponding store. Okay, so now I'm going to use my calculator to generate a simple random sample of size 3. So I go over to math, probability, we're going to choose number 5, and we're going to do from numbers 1 to 21. And I generate a 13 first, a 5, and then a 21. So again, your calculator may or may not generate the same numbers as I do. It just depends on where your generator was left off in the list. Mine was 13, 5, and 21. And if I go ahead and take a look, for me, number 13 was Mrs. Fields. Number 5, if we take a look, for me, number 5 was Carter's. And then 21 was Zale's. So you can use your own calculator and generate your random integers, and it may not be, and most likely will not be the same as mine. Okay, but that's how you would explain it. To use the random integer feature on your calculator, you go through and you can generate your 3 stores for your simple random sample. So now let's take a look at table D. Explain how you would use a line of table D to choose a simple random sample size. So first, when we explain, you have to explain the label, just like we did above. So we're going to number the 21 stores from 01 to 21. Notice we had to use 2 digits I'm putting that in for your notes. You didn't necessarily have to use 2 digits, but you showed it here that you're using 2 digits from 01 to 21. And again, we were doing it in alpha order, so we're going to state that as well. Now step 2 is going to be a little different than what we did with the technology. Now we're going to use the table. So how do we randomize using a table? So you explain to me what you're going to do. Now go to random number table. In this case, if you use a table, we're going to be using table D. You're going to pick a starting point. Your starting point can be any line. Okay, so you pick which line you're going to start from. Let's say in this case, we're going to choose to start at line 101. So let's put such as line 101. So when you're doing a quiz or a test, tell me which line you're going to start at. Say I'm going to go to random number table D, and I'm going to start at line 101. Okay? And then you're going to record 2-digit numbers, and you need to tell me that. You don't just write them down. You say, and then I record 2-digit numbers until we have 3 different numbers between 0, 1, and 21. You could also say until we have 3 unique numbers. Now it's important that you state this, that you have to ignore repeats, because as we're going through our line, if we come up with let's say we see 09 twice, we're only going to count it 1 time. So ignore repeats. We're also going to ignore 00 because 00, if we take a look, we labeled the numbers from 01 to 21. So 00 is not part of our list. And we also have other 2-digit numbers besides 01 and 21 that we did not include. And those would be the numbers 22 to 99. This is a must. You must state this. Ignore repeats, 00, 22 to 99. Then you're going to tell me that you're going to match the numbers to the corresponding store. Now, although you're like, I know how to do this, I could just go ahead and do it. It is important that you explain it. That is part of the process. It will be expected on tests and quizzes, as well as your homework, as well as the AP test. When they ask you to explain, you must explain the labeling and you must explain the randomization, how you're going to do it on a table, just like this, or when you randomize using the technology. Okay, so now let's use table D at line 101 to select a simple random sample of size 3. So we're going to take a look at line 101. And we're going to take a look at 2 digits. So I know it might be hard to see in the video, but you're looking at your line 101 right here. And if we take a look, the first digit that we have, the first 2 digits are 1 and 9. So our first number is 19. And if we take a look, we do have a store at 19, so I'm going to circle that. The next number in line is 22. 22 is not part of our population, so we're going to cross that out. The next one, if we take a look, the 3 and the 9, even though the 3 and the 9 are in different groups, we still put them together. So the next number would be 39. Obviously, that doesn't fall between 1 and 20, between 0, 1, and 21. And we just keep going through. The next one, if we take a look, would be 50. It's not part of it. Then we would have 34. That is not part of it as well. Then we have 05. If we take a look, 05 represents the number 5. That is part of our population, so we will circle that and we will continue on. Next, we have 75. Then we have 62, which are not part of our population. After 62, we have 87. 87 is not part of it, but the next number is 13. 13 is part of it, and I'm now going to stop because I have the 3 stores. So if we take a look at our list, store number 19 at the top tells us that it's Star Jewelers. Store number 5 is Carter's for kids. And store number 13 is Mrs. Fields. Okay, so that is the conclusion of section 4.1, part 1, part A. So hopefully after going through these notes, you should be able to be more familiar with how to identify the population and sample in a study, how to identify a voluntary response or a convenience sampling method, and be able to explain how these types of methods for sampling can lead to bias. And then you also should be able to explain how to choose a simple random sample using your calculator or a table of random digits, be able to explain it, and then go ahead and actually be able to conduct your simple random sample. All right, have a good day.